Our next speaker is Swati Joshi, and she's going to talk to us today about Samuel Beckett and garbage.
The changing.
Give that camera.
Okay. So this is the extension. This presentation is the extension of what I had presented at Trinity College Dublin in 2020. And it's a paper in the making for James Martell's Samuel Beckett and Nature edited volume. It's called Inspiration and Expiration, the Environgnostic Soliloquies in Samuel Beckett's biomorphic play Breath, that set the stage for Pirana case study.
Right.
So the next is the structure of the presentation. I'll be beginning with defining waste, introduction to Pirana's dumping site. So Pirana dumping site is based in my city, Ahmedabad, which is the western part of India. Introduction to biomorphic modernism, analysis of the dumping site as a paradoxical biomorphic artwork, outline of Samuel Beckett's Breath, comparative analysis of breath. So the structure of breath is more like Shakespearean tragedy. That's what I figured out over the course of continuous readings. The relevance of inspiration and expiration in Beckett's Breath as soliloquies with the dumping site in Ahmedabad, and justifying Beckett's play as a biomorphic play that shares the structure of Shakespearean's tragedy, which shows how this biomorphic artwork is basically destructive in nature. It resembles a mountain, which is reminiscent of a natural landscape, but it isn't. It's a destructive side. And it's kind of funny and sad as well that most of the local newspapers address this dumping site, this landfill, as Mount Pirana. So it's something that people love to sarcastically worship. Okay, so this is...
Oh, it's changing on here, not on yours.
No, but we'll need to play that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So my dad took me on a ride to this stuff. This is just a glimpse of how hear the noise. The city just goes on while the traffic stands there. This is the freeway that connects two cities, Ahmedabad and Baroda. And people just keep on. The traffic comes and goes, and it's taken for granted in this position. There are two definitions in this on the slide that I'll begin with. I'll just stick to Myra Hertz because that's more relevant to the paper that I'm going to present. And it's from a public sociology of waste. She defines waste as follows. Waste is of all those things we put in our trash can, and if our local waste services are functioning well, or whisked away from our homes to become quickly out of sight and out of mind. In this video, I can show that it is very much inside, yet out of mind. So this is the data from Central Pollution Control Board Delhi over the years, what's happened, how much solid waste generation has happened over the years. This is the data from Statista about the landfills in India. And it's very surprising that Gujarat is somewhere there in the lowest. I'm quite amazed because it shouldn't be there. This also has the video. This also has the video.
Okay.
So this is a closer view of the landfill. The total area of Pirana landfill site is 84 hectares. 65 hectares of land has been used up so far for the disposal of waste since 1980. The average depth or height of this waste is 22 meters, which means it's almost 90 feet in height. As per survey conducted by Avalon Clean Engineering in February 2010 at Pirana dumping sites, food waste constitute 40% of sample tested. And this has come out from the research paper that I've cited here of Patel, Dalal, and Nigam. Yes, so there is no mechanism in Ahmedabad for ensuring recycling of food waste, which is, again, what's not mentioned in this report is about the problem about the stray animals, the stray cattle, dogs, the dead bodies are just collected and dumped there. And it stinks a lot. It's worse in the rainy season, so you can imagine. It was found that around 70,000 flies can live in 1 cubic foot of garbage. The landfill started operation in 1980, and on average, about 2,500 tons per day of waste is dumped on the site, with the waste filling heights varying from 20 to 22 meters. The wastes dumped into the site are largely from domestic and commercial sources. So next to this landfill is a huge industrial site of denim. It's called RV factories. And there are multiple factories surrounding this area. Interestingly, the inhabitants living in this area are the illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, the refugees who escaped the 2002 genocide in Gujarat. So the government has been reluctant to address this issue for a very long time because of the kind of population that lives there, which is also interesting, how we do not consider certain people as humans and therefore they don't deserve the clean conditions to live. But this, again, the problem is not just limited to them. The surprising thing is that the methods that they are using to address the disposal of this or to deal with this mountain is literally burning it up. So the smoke pervades the entire city. I live almost 25 kilometers away from this Mount Pirana, but I can see it from my terrace, and it burns every day and every night. And I personally have suffered because of this. Most of my artwork that I've put on Twitter is based on how I have suffered while confining myself, keeping the doors and windows locked because of this smoke coming out of this mountain. Okay, so what caught my attention was Beckett's connection, Beckett's flayed breath, which I will talk about in a minute, and the shape of the garbage. This is the closer view of how it looks like. I did not brave up to go any closer than this, but this is the closest that I could manage to go because it smells a lot. I think the shape of the garbage matters a lot. Beckett, in his directorial instructions, clearly mentioned that while staging breath, the rubbish should be scattered horizontally and no vertical sections. This is a 90 feet tall thing. And it's not the only dumping site, it's not the only landfill. Ahmedabad has 3 other landfills just closer to this one. They're still not as tall as this great giant, but they are still aspiring to be as tall as this one. And that helped me to connect with what do we consider as healthful or nourishing, or for that matter, what means biomorphic. There has been a lot of discussion about Beckett and nature in the recent times, and a lot of conferences have been organized around Beckett and environment. What helped me understand was most of the presentations that happened were along the lines of Beckett and good kind of nature, nourishing nature. But what about the paradoxical nature, something of this kind that looks like a mountain, but is nothing but the mountain of death? So biomorphic literally means, and it's come from the thesis of Oliver Botar, who still continues to write a lot about biomorphic modernism, biomorphic art. It is the artwork that represents or that is reminiscent of living organisms, natural landscapes. So what looks like nature might not always be nourishing, is what I have inferred after reading his thesis. And that has helped me understand Beckett's breath, which is basically about trash, and then analyzing this giant there. Now, what Botar talks about is biomorphic. He tries to describe biomorphic in his own ways. A lot of artists have tried to define the term, but I don't think it's kind of possible to, because it's a plastic term, it's very flexible, and different artists have tried to define biomorphic from their own position. I personally prefer the second definition, where he says, I do not wish to suggest that all works which are biomorphic modernist in style carry with them biocentric meaning, because this is definitely not biocentric. This is not life-centric. This very paradoxical installation permitted by government, ignored by government. Nor do I wish to exclude the possibility that artists avoided the attachment of any meanings to their works. Some biomorphic modernist artworks are intended as formal exercises. I'm choosing rather to study what I take to be their preeminent meaning. I think the kind of meaning that I derive from the comparative study of Pirana, landfill, and Beckett's play Breath is that though it looks like a mountain and though it's intended to be dealt with in a shorter period of time, because the government, the Supreme Court, has fined the municipal corporation a number of times, a lot of corporate giants who are pro-government have also approached municipal corporation for dealing with this issue. But the municipal corporation has not budged. There has been no initiative of converting this landfill into a raw material for generation of electricity or for anything else. So I see a sort of dark side on that path. Now I'll take a segue to Beckett's Breath. So Beckett's Breath was meant to be staged at a time in New York when the labor union was protesting. So the garbage lay there on the streets of New York. And Beckett did not, of course, intend to, pick on that vein, but it simultaneously happened to be so. So it was staged for his friend Kenneth Tynan, and William Hutchings has an interesting thing to say about it. Whatever else Beckett's characters lack, and they do lack mobility and limbs, sight, memory, or even life itself, they are breath. And Beckett's play Breath does catch that. Biomorphic modernism was employed as a lens, was employed to analyze Beckett's Breath because this trend of analyzing artworks or creating biomorphic artworks started in 1960s, and Beckett's play was staged in 1969, so it all happened in the same decade. There is no evidence, though, that Beckett intentionally designed it thinking biomorphic artworks in his head. So that is what I'm contributing to that paper. He himself liked to summarize the play as on entre, on crie, et c'est la vie. We enter, we cry, and that's life. On crie, on sort, we cry, we leave, et c'est la mort, and that's the death. And he very sarcastically addressed it, which James Wilson in the biography of Beckett captures it. If this fails to titillate, I hand in my apron. Now, Beckett's play Breath, if you see the structure, it's based mostly on the Shakespearean tragedy. This is what I feel, this is my personal analysis. And before we move to Shakespearean tragedy, just a glimpse of what the structure looks like and how Andrew Cecil Bradley has tried to break it down into sections for us to understand. I'll just move to the next one. This is exactly Beckett. This is Beckett's Breath. This is exactly the text, how it looks like. It's a 45-second play. And personally very close to me, because I feel that it's very difficult for a theatre director to stage something in just 45 seconds. And how it begins is that there is a faint light on stage, littered with miscellaneous rubbish, and the directorial credits say that it has to be horizontal. The director is asked to hold the light for about 5 seconds, faint brief cry, then immediate inspiration, slow increase of light together, reaching maximum together in about 10 seconds, silence, hold about 5 seconds, expiration, decrease of light, and the play ends with another cry. So it begins with vagitus and ends with a cry, which is very interesting. And the only thing in between is inhalation and expiration. So I've tried to analyze this as Beckett breath as the tragic hero in the 32nd play, sorry, in the not third second play, but in the 32nd play. The conflict is introduced by the stage settings, which is littered garbage, and the shape of it, which introduces a struggle of breath. The faint, brief cry or recorded vagitus, as Beckett informs in the directorial credits, I believe, act as chorus that form the exposition of the play. The inspiration becomes the first soliloquy of breath. The expiration becomes the second soliloquy of breath. The final cry marks the catastrophe of the tragic hero breath. The soliloquies of the breath are environgnostic in nature. And I'd introduced this concept for the first time at a conference in Trinity College Dublin. Environgnostic, if you break it, the portmanteau literally means environ, surrounding. Gnostic comes from gnosis, meaning knowledge. So these soliloquies, these cries, these inhalation and expiration will inform you about the surroundings because they struggle. I'll be very quick. And these are the possible solutions that have been suggested, but there has been no initiation as such. The initiative from the municipal corporations and to address the issue. So at the end, I'm hoping, since it's believed in the scientific principle that nothing is born, created, or nothing dies, it can just be transformed from one form to another. So I'm hoping the landfill gets transformed into a proper energy someday. Thank you.